Terrorism is fought under three different silos, and all these three are most important. The first and the most vital is to know who is the terrorist. What is he planning? Who are his targets? Where is he getting his weapons? Where is he stored them? Who is giving them money? Who are their overground supporters? Which are the countries, if at all there are any foreign-sponsored terrorism? And we know that today terrorism is one of the phenomena that is supported and gets its support and sustenance from the sources abroad. So it is very important first to know about terrorism. That is a wide field and a branch by itself. But then the point is this: the knowledge is not sufficient. What do we do with that knowledge? So we have to take action on that knowledge. And then it is the terrorists that we try to degrade, we try to neutralize. It is their weapons that we try to seize. It is their sanctuaries that we try to destroy. It is their training centers and others that we try to target. So the whole gambit of activities that go in the field of what we call as a physical action. But it doesn't end here. There are a large number of knowledge that is left and the evidence that is left that has got to be taken, particularly in a democracy, to the court of law, and we have got to find that what action we can take against those people who are either left out, who have been providing them shelter, support, ideological guidance, and also some of them who have been the active members of these terrorist groups. This is the most important aspect which in the long run finishes terrorism. Proactive and a preventive intelligence only leads to your taking the counteractions that will minimize their activities or that will be able to contain the degradation that or the harm that they can do. Physical action only counters what is present. But what is future ultimately is decided by what the investigations in these cases are do, what the court of law we are able to see, and we are able to establish them as the criminals. And this is what we are here for. We are here to, one of the problems of fighting terrorism is this, that these three silos do not merge with each other. They work not in tandem but work separately, even when they work very, very efficiently, what the army might be doing in J&K and probably what RNW might be doing or IB might be doing in some other theaters, and what the NIA might be doing, probably where is the connect? And most importantly, what all of you are doing in your respective states, that is the most important thing, because you are the first respondents. You are the first people actually who face at the cutting edge level the terrorism. You are the one who fight it and who also bear the brunt of it. And the responsibility of saving the civil society lies squarely on your shoulders. And that is the main target of the terrorists. So the role of the states is extremely important, and here in the next 2 days, what I would expect, and I am very sure that with the very stalwarts and very experienced people here, try to focus on what is there that we can contribute to each other. When you work in convergence and you complement each other, it is not something that you add to each other, you multiply, that becomes a force multiplier and not a force additional. It does not only add to this thing, it multiplies it. I am very happy that most of the states are now having their ATS and the STFs and other specialized things who have got a dual advantage, and that is my own view. For a very long time, that is, could there be that the country could have one single counter-terrorist agency which could have all the three components integrated and merged with that, but for some reasons that hasn't happened. But in the states, your STFs are collecting some amount of the intelligence also, and they are taking physical action, and if they can contribute also to the investigation of the cases, probably that will help. Now I'll tell you how it is important. and I won't take too much time because you are all experienced officers, you understand. Actually, the process of investigation or the evidence starts getting collected right from the time when the intelligence people are collecting their intelligence, either through the physical sources or through the technical sources or through the human assets. The only thing is this, for the sake of the success of the operation and secrecy, it cannot be shared. But the fact that they have got to be made like this thing, that this is a very potential source of evidence at some stage. If one of my sources brings a diary to me, and in which he shows all the details of the plans and the numbers and their telephone numbers and connectivity, probably I think it is my seized property or it is my property, this thing like that, and I work on that. We do not think it has got a great evidentiary value sometime. And it has got to be utilized in what way it can come, how it will this thing, that will have got to be seen. But anyway, that's only preliminary. But thereafter, even when the physical action takes place, there is plenty on the scene, which either gets destroyed or ignored. There may be some papers, there may be diaries, there may be computers, there may be some documents, even some clothes that they're wearing, some stains of blood, many things. That probably could be this thing, which are destroyed, ignored or something like that. By the time it really reaches to those people in the police station who have to do the investigation, probably they are not also that well trained about the investigative practices, that is, they are not able to do this thing. And then by the time it comes to your specialized branches, medicine cases. Firstly, there are very few eyewitnesses. These are not this thing that are done. And secondly, who will dare himself and take this thing of it? He, his family, this thing. It is very, very difficult for any ordinary citizen to come in the court of law and depose against a dreaded Jaish-e-Mohammed or a Lashkar-e-Toiba terrorist. So these are the things which makes it the great challenge, and that's why I compliment all of you and I compliment the NIA that they have withstood this challenge and have been able to bring about those successes and glories in the future of it. But what is going to be the future? Are these challenges going to become less or more, or we have reached a plateau and we can probably get satisfied that, well, whatever has happened and now we are probably pretty well? No, certainly not. Actually, just a beginning of a much more difficult period. What is happening is this, that wars are increasingly becoming cost-ineffective instruments of achieving your political or strategic objectives. Nobody can afford the wars these days because they're cost ineffective. They're very, very expensive, not only in terms of the money, but also in terms of the lives that would be lost. But the most important thing is that you are not sure of the victory. Even in spite of the fact that you have got a superiority in terms of your resources, in terms of your weapons, in terms of your technologies, you are not very sure whether the Americans with all their strength could get what their political or military objectives were in Vietnam, or the Soviets could get it in Afghanistan, or the Americans. So it is no guarantee for that. So increasingly the reliance from the instrument of war is to instrument of covert action. And in the instrument of covert action, terrorism, and it's not only the terrorism is only one of the manifestations of the covert action that the adversarial powers will be using against it. It will take many forms, and it is taking many forms. We can talk about it at some other point, but here we are talking about terrorism. But terrorism is one of the important ones. It is a low-cost, sustainable option. And it bleeds the enemy much more than probably even the war. And it can do it over a prolonged period. So therefore, as the world becomes more complex, as there are more strategical, geopolitical complex relationships that emerge, and wars become not an option to achieve it, that is, you will find that there are increasingly the use of terrorism. And when that will happen, if we have to defend ourselves, the responsibilities on all of you will be much greater. So what to do? I think this is what should be the focus of your conference here. Come out with some specific, doable, something within the time frame that can be done, with the timelines, who should be doing what. What is there that we want the government to do in the ministries? What is that at the policy level we want to change? What is at the executive level in terms of your training, in terms of your equipment, in terms of your resources, in terms of your connectivity? For example, I think one of the important things is how do you bring about greater convergence? And this convergence is between the center and the states, between the different organs of the people who are fighting terrorism, including, for example, for that matter, the media. The media is a very, very important organ to fight terrorism. Why do terrorists kill? You know, as Margaret Thatcher had said, that if the terrorists take action and the media is quiet about it, terrorism will end. They do it for publicity, because then only you can terrorize people. If 10 people are killed somewhere in a very gruesome way and nobody comes to know about it, nobody is terrorized. When somebody's son is kidnapped and then killed while going to school by a terrorist, then a mother who is probably 500 miles away from there, she gets terrorized. Could it happen to my son also? But if it doesn't know about it, it doesn't happen. Is it that is we have to change our media policy, we have to be more transparent with them, tell them and take them into confidence? Since we can't tell them many things, and since we don't tell them many things, they probably speculate and at times give us the information and carry the information, which creates terror in the society rather than prepare the society to fight terror. So the perception management is also an important part. There are many other aspects that you will have to see. Is there that anybody who is dealing with the terrorism, there has got to be somebody authorized and trained to interact with the media and let them the first to give their idea, give their facts of what exactly had happened and in what way it has happened, why it has happened and what can be done and what the government is doing about it. Probably they will be very supportive. Whenever you have taken them into confidence, they are very, very supportive. Because they want the society to know the right thing. Everybody has known that the bomb blast has taken place. And they say, if you don't give them any figure, well, they think that probably 500 have died. You tell them, no, only 2% have died. Yesterday there was, I think, one small infectious blast which actually couldn't take place. It was on the CRP, this thing, probably it had gone about 200 meters away, ahead, before the blast physically took place. So there is this thing about this media policy or something. Similarly, working in the different silos, probably what can be the other change in their standard operating procedures, that is, in case there are intelligence reports, is it that the part of this intelligence reports are shared with the concerned states and the things like that in a way that they can operate and prepare themselves for that. Similarly, about the use of technologies, building about your data banks, sharing of the data banks. I hope that now that the new grid is coming up and now that the greater connectivity among the police forces, that will improve the matter. Also the legal empowerments. Well, some of the things have been done, and NIA has been given some legal empowerments by the government, and the government is quite determined and committed to do everything possible to make it as strong an agency as possible. Probably there may be something more that you people coming from the field might be thinking could be useful. Probably in your day-to-day working in fighting terrorism as the police officers, you might be thinking that, well, certain amount of the empowerments to fight terrorism, if they are just saying, let these proposals come out. And let me tell you one thing, that is, terrorism is not only one thing that you fight. There are many, many aspects of the terrorism. It's a gun running, there may be weapons, forging of weapons and making of the weapons, and this thing. Then there are narco-terrorism, that they have got the connectivity with that. Money channels, they are the very important thing. Actually, one of the biggest pressure that has come on Pakistan today is because of the proceedings of the FATF against it. And FATF has created so much of a pressure on them that probably no other action could have taken. If you could collect the information, correct information, sustainable information, a quotable information which can be put up in the international forums and platforms effectively, that is how Pakistan, everybody knows that Pakistan is supporting terrorism, Pakistan is financing terrorism, but the point is that in these forums, it is the evidence that is required. And only you people can distinct. Firstly, you have got the access to it, and secondly, you understand how the information is converted into evidence. And if there is an evidence, how can it be made something which can withstand the scrutiny of law? So you can all contribute in a small way. Probably it can be converted by the NIA. NIA is, I call them in a meeting when we are talking about the whatever is the evidence available. It's not that we are targeting any particular country, but the facts are facts. So if we get to know the real facts, it is our duty to put it to the thing, and they are put at the right places in the right forum and in an effective way. And I do think that, we should continue our efforts. So depend on the facts, preserve the facts, put them into the formats, don't destroy them, put them into the facts. They may be usable nationally and internationally. Even if we have got to say that, Pakistan is sponsoring terrorism, where is the evidence? Don't destroy the evidence. You've got plenty of it. Similarly, in case you have to do the perception management, and you say that, the Pakistanis are doing about that. So many Pakistani people who are arrested. There is no harm in giving their identities, giving their plans, giving their this thing to the media. Let the world know about it. Just keeping them into the steel jackets of this thing does only benefits Pakistan. So building out that a strategy which is able to achieve the objective of defeating terrorism, that should be the purpose of this conference. And in next 2 days' time, we should be able to figure out those actionable points that we can probably identify and work on. Well, friends, I would have liked to spend more time with you. I have also got a little experience of dealing with terrorism, but since I have to go for some immediate this thing, we have got the King of Netherlands here. So got just a meeting with the Prime Minister with him. So I'll take a leave, and I once again thank the Director NIA for giving me this opportunity, and I'm very grateful to all of you for listening to me patiently. Thank you very much.
All right, so big statements being made by the National Security Advisor, Mr. Ajit Doval there, especially when it comes to the big statements that he's been making on terrorism and the links that are now being drawn to terror state Pakistan. How exactly the links are drawn, even when it comes to terror financing, funding and support? Where exactly are these logistical and support that the terrorist seems to be getting into, especially also not only talking about terrorism and insurgency also in the northeast? Several big statements that have been made by NSA Ajit Doval, and talking about Pakistan in particular. Why is Pakistan tense these days? Because the FATF blacklist is looming on its head. If it is blacklisted, then it's game over for Pakistan.
डीजी NIA से पुनः अनुरोध है कि वह माननीय गृह राज्य मंत्री जी को स्मृति चिन्ह भेंट करें।